What I didn't quite get to in the last video was a point of importance. Sophocles, we know, was highly invested in the process of democratizing Athens, and we know this because he served under Pericles. And we know this also because of what he wrote. His lead characters are always tragic heroes, and they always get themselves in trouble because they speak above everybody and because they do not take anybody else's point of view into consideration. Take, for example, his first play in the Oedipus trilogy that I alluded to, Oedipus Rex. The story of Oedipus is very well known, and certainly the Athenians knew it a very long time, likely centuries, before Sophocles' play. Sophocles takes an old myth about an abandoned child and he makes it into a play for the Athenians to watch. But basically, we know what Oedipus's problem is. We know why he is a bad leader from the very first line of the play, because of the staging and because of what he says. When the scene opens, you have the Athenian people. Well, actually, the play is supposed to take place in Thebes, of course, so the Theban people are making obeisances to Apollo. They are supplicating. They are in prayer. They are asking the god Apollo to help them. And it is because there is suffering in the land. There's a famine. People are sick. People are dying, and they want help. And so the people of Thebes are down on the ground level, out in what is called the orchestra. And orchestra is a very, very old Greek term that means the dancing place. And that was, in the original plays, that was the place for the chorus, and the chorus would indeed dance. So they're on the ground, and when Oedipus walks out, he walks above them on a kind of a dais. It's very high off the ground. It's called, in Greek, the skene. And so he's standing very far above his people out there. So it's a clear, visually symbolic, image of his feelings of superiority over the people. And the very first thing out of his mouth when he walks out is, "Oh, my children, why are you supplicating to me?" The first words out of his mouth show the audience that Oedipus thinks of himself as a god, and he thinks that the people are responding to him in prayer. And the leader of the people, the very first thing out of his mouth is, "We're not supplicating to you, we're supplicating to Apollo. And the reason that we're doing it is because there's suffering in the land." So it's no surprise that the entire play is about leadership, and the entire play is about bad leadership, and about a leader overstepping his place and making claims to being greater than the people that he is supposed to be leading. So what I wanted to get to from here, though, is there's a term that I'm adding on for your edification, and I'm going to have you work on it this week. The term is stichomythia. Stichomythia is a Greek term that specifically means that two characters are speaking one over the other, almost on top of each other. And their verbal exchange is obviously meant to assert a point of view. And it's really a kind of a heated argument about who's right. And you see this in Sophocles' plays a very great deal. It was a device that he developed to create dramatic tension. And it's highly effective, and you've probably seen this very highly effective device used in practically every TV drama you've ever watched and every movie and so forth, where one character delivers a line and then the other character in opposition delivers a different line, and then they go kind of back and forth, kind of at each other, verbally, of course. Stichomythia. And you will find that this particular device is used very extensively in Antigone, even in the very first scene, where Antigone is trying to get her sister Ismene to help her bury their brother Polynices, their brother who died in battle. He was trying to overtake the city. And that, of course, becomes vastly more complicated because you see there are 4 siblings, all of them the children of Oedipus, the 2 daughters, Antigone and Ismene, and the 2 brothers. Anyway, so what has happened is Oedipus was king, but when Oedipus falls, Creon, the uncle of these children, runs the city kind of as a sort of, he's in power until the eldest is old enough to take power, and Polynices is the eldest. So Polynices is anticipating that he's coming of age and the kingdom will be his under his leadership, and he will be in power. But his brother Eteocles seizes power before him. So in a sense, Eteocles is the usurper. Eteocles is the tyrant who takes power. But since Eteocles asserts power, and since the army is then his, Creon just sort of goes along and lets Eteocles run things. But Polynices, of course, becomes very upset about this because he's the eldest, so he assumed that he should be in power. So Polynices raises his own military. He raises his own army, and of course it has to be an outside army. And then he comes in and he is invading Thebes, invading his own city. Well, Creon decides that Polynices is the traitor because Polynices raises a foreign army and attempts to take power over the king, who is Eteocles. And unfortunately, as all tragedies happen, Eteocles and Polynices kill each other on the battlefield. They're both dead. They're both dead. And so that means that the kingship falls back on Creon. And so Creon issues an edict saying that Eteocles died a hero, and he is to be buried as an honorable king who was devoted to his city and defended his city until the death. Whereas Polynices was a traitor, an invader, someone who came, as a foreign influence. And Creon made this edict that, really couldn't be born, if you think about it. He says Polynices is supposed to lie on top of the ground, rot, and be devoured by animals. And Antigone decides, well, it's not right. Anyway, Antigone's trying to get Ismene to her side to help her bury their brother. And Ismene argues back. We can't do that. We are but women. We are not leaders. This is not our government, and it is not our place to do such things. And Antigone comes back with, well, of course it is. They're family. And this is a family obligation, which, of course, it is. So what we have in this play is a huge conflict about what is the right thing to do. And it's raised with this stichomythia, this back and forth, which is, of course, part of the process of democracy, where each individual needs to raise an objection to any policy that might take away from their ability to have their livelihood and to enjoy the rights of the citizen. So the play really acts out on stage democratic values. The fact that people need to speak out for themselves, and they need to share their point of view and try and gain the understanding of others about what is right and what is important. This is the way that democracy functions. It's not supposed to be run by an autocrat who makes an edict and says, this is how it shall be from now on. So you have that, and at the same time, these two conflicting values of what is a woman supposed to do. Is a woman in ancient Greek society, which, by the way, a woman would not have been a citizen in ancient Greek society. A woman would have been, part of the household. She would have run a household. She would have made household decisions, but she would not have made decisions about what happens outside of a household. So is it a woman's place to say, this is my family, and my family must be cared for? He must be taken care of in the proper rites according to the gods about how a family member should be buried. So there's a whole lot of interesting things going on. And the stichomythia is a structuring element that really heightens this dramatic aspect of this play and these important issues for debate.